So I just want to introduce a little bit about the box and what we're going to be talking about with TIZO, and then who you are. So I'm Eric Himel, and this is our special guest, Dr. Harry from TIZO. But first, I just want to say, this is the box, and it is a fabulated, curated box by Dr. Ava Shamban of Beverly Hills dermatologist, celebrity, and this is the first one. And she personally curated these items. We have True Sculpt Flex. Go check them out. They're amazing for getting rid of fat, building muscle. We have Underskin. And most importantly, today, we have TIZO Sunscreen. So welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Harry from TIZO, the founder. So,
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I apologize about the technical difficulties.
You know what? Everybody has
it.
It's no country. All Instagram Live virgins have it. So, no worries. But I want to tell everybody we're talking about TIZO sunscreen, and this is something that you developed in. What year did you develop? In 1990?
Well, we started the business in 1989.
Yeah.
A long time ago. I was in practice then. TIZO was an evolution. It was an evolution into purely mineral sunscreens, really elegant, really what we believed was a safer, healthier product, and we still do. And we launched it in 2007, actually. So it's actually been out for a while, but as a small company, it takes a long time to get noticed, you know?
Oh, and especially I just want to tell you, everybody out there, I have used TIZO sunscreen for over 2 years now. And so I'm speaking from experience when I can tell you what I love about it and how it works. So it does take time to create something that is awesome. And I have so many questions. So I just want to start off by telling everybody that sunscreens are not all equal. And I know people will go into a drugstore and just pick something up last minute, kind of, not really thinking. A lot of people do that, and they still do that. And they're not all created equally, all sunscreens. And so I'm really excited because I like to take care of my skin. I'm somebody who likes to talk about how to take care of yourself and how important it is. And your skin is your largest organ, I believe, in your body, on your body, and it's your organ that is exposed. And so it's really, really important. And I think people just kind of overlook, like, oh, I'm going to the beach, or it's July and I'm going to throw on some sunscreen.
You're right, because people, like, what does that really mean, your largest organ? It's funny. But your skin is your immune system. Start there. Think about
I like
this
that better.
as when you get a bad sunburn, you will get sick.
So what's the correlation?
Yes, because your skin is your immune system, and it's responding to that injury. So the goal is to keep your skin healthy, keep your immune system healthy, and realize it's not just when you go to the beach. It's all the time. Because we're talking about invisible radiation coming, millions of miles away, reaching us, and it doesn't just stop when it hits us. It goes into us, of course. UVB goes kind of superficial, turns us red. It's our alarm clock. UVA, the other wavelength, goes deeper, goes into our dermis, causes hyperpigmentation, causes the changes that are recognized with aging, dryness, wrinkles, all those other things.
So I might interrupt you because
Sure.
I'm going to serve as the layman and the conduit to the audience.
So that was my job.
If you say so just say the big words. If you say big words like hyperpigmentation, it's a word that people throw around, but just tell everybody what that actually means.
That just means it's an area that has more pigmentation. Hyper meaning more, of course, hypo meaning less. It's an area that a group of cells the melanocytes are either overproducing or not reabsorbing some of the pigment. And a lot of times that's a sign of injury. For example, let's say you have acne and you have a cyst and you either picket it or you're going to get some post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. In other words, after the inflammation's over from picking your acne, you're going to get some pigmentation because you've caused some injury. Along the same line, the sun for us represents a lot of things. It represents our health, our happiness, but it can also represent injury. And a good example of that is not only, say, the person taking any of the 400 drugs that photosensitize you, but the issues that so many people deal with, be it lupus, which is photosensitizing, you know, the medicines, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, or just the normal things of as we get older, we're less capable of dealing with that radiation or that injury to our skin.
So I'm going to interrupt you again.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Photosensitizing, is that the word you just said? Photosensitizing?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So that means that a lot of medicines, be it birth control pills, diuretics, a lot of medicines, tetracycline, a great example, makes you more sensitive to the sun. So you go outside, you're out living your daily life, you forget that, you know, you're taking antibiotics for whatever, be it acne, be it infection, you know. And now that you're in the sun, your skin is having a different reaction than it would have if you weren't taking that medicine. You've been somewhat sensitized to the sun. You know, I mean, you can be sensitized, of course, to a lot of things, but one of the big things are all the medicines we take, and those could even be dietary supplements that do sensitize us to the sun.
Yeah, I noted that I would get like go to the pharmacy and it would say like don't go in the sun or something, and I think people sometimes are just like like that. But I want to know. But if I want you to scare us if it's bad, like tell us what that really means.
Well, here's what I really think what we should talk about, because I think you're right. I think we all know that there are some medicines and, you know, there's some issues, but basically we're attracted to being outside. I mean, you know, in the East here, we just want the spring to come. But really what matters when we talk about sunscreen and the sun is how we address it. Do we address it by absorbing the sun and absorbing the filter or the chemical that's there, or do we address it by reflecting light? So that's the big, divot in the road. Are you going to do a chemical sunscreen filter, or are you going to do a mineral sunscreen filter? Are you going to end up with a combination of them?
Okay, tell us the difference between a chemical and a mineral.
Okay.
I think it's a great time to answer that question.
So basically, sunscreens, and I'll hold a box up right here. You see right here, it says on the top, it says active ingredients, right? And that's because sunscreens are over-the-counter drugs. They are regulated. They have a structure, functional effect on the skin. So we have to list all the drug facts. Mm-hmm. Basically, there's two ways that this goes. They can either be from the lab, from the organic chemistry lab, or they can be, and those are called the organic sunscreens, which is great, right? Because you think of organic farming, it's not organic food, it's organic chemistry. Yeah. And those are the current 12 chemical sunscreens, and everything's a chemical, so I hate that, but the 12 chemical sunscreens that are accepted as sunscreen filters. Things like octamethoxycinnamate, benzophenone, octocrylene, all the things that are a little bit harder to pronounce. Then you get to the physical sunscreen filters, and those are simply two, titanium and zinc. So it gets separated right away between the inorganics, the rocks, the ones not based around a carbon molecule from the organic chemistry lab, the rocks, or there are the chemicals. Now, just so you know, in 2020, starting in 2019, FDA recategorized these. They said titanium and zinc are category 1, 2 of them are category 2, those are in the garbage, and these other 12, we don't really know what's going on. We're going to call those category 3.
So what does that mean for me and everyone out there? Why should we care about that?
What it says is category 1 is safe, effective, does not absorb, used, fine. Category 2, in the garbage, and there were only 2 of those. Category 3, we don't really know what's going on.
So the TIZO is category 1, correct?
TIZO is category 1.
And again, I think it's worth repeating. It's zinc oxide and titanium oxide.
Yes. And those are recognized, do not absorb, don't end up in our bloodstream. We don't urinate them out. They're not in our breast milk. They're not endocrine disruptors. They are staying on the surface of our skin.
I'm going to ask a silly question. Why doesn't every sunscreen company just use those then and forget about the stuff that's might get absorbed into our body?
Well, you know, it's the question. Well, so let me just finish. That is not a silly question. That's an incredibly important question. And I'm going to tell you the answer is probably money. Because zinc and titanium, they're mined, they're rocks, they're processed. Yes, they are still chemicals, but they function differently. They reflect light, they don't absorb. but they're harder to get to. They're harder to work with. They take years to really formulate, and they just don't often end up right. That's fortunately where we got very successful. The chemical sunscreens burn your eyes, irritate your skin, urinate them out, all kinds of things, but they're cheap. They're easy to formulate with. They're so simple. That's why they're so prevalent. Because if you go to Walmart or you go to the drugstores, 90+% are chemical sunscreens. The deception is the middle. And the middle is when something says zinc, but when you turn the box around, it's all zinc and all the other chemicals.
Plus, etc.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I remember growing up in zinc oxide I'm familiar with, because I remember like you put it on, it looks real white, right? Because it reflects back.
Yes.
And I was like, I feel protected, and you see people walking around, you look white. Now, I will tell people out there that TIZO, you could rub it in. You don't have to walk around like in this white, creamy face. So I'll ask you about kind of how you do that, but also the TIZO, the Ti is the titanium oxide, correct?
Yes.
So tell me, TIZO, break down where you got that from, the name.
Well, you know, you try to be a little clever and you try to put out what you're saying. So it was just TIZO, titanium, iron, zinc oxide.
Oh,
because
okay. Well, there you go.
Is iron oxide. Very little bit, but it helps, you know, make it disappear, translucent. But let's talk about what you're saying there, and I'll just put this on me. What you're saying there, and, you know, this is a while ago when you would put it on and it could still be white, you know, but it should go away. What you're talking about is particle size. And that's the other thing that really matters. Mm-hmm. And I always like to use that little expression that we thought up, which was boulders, rocks, pebble, stone, and sand. So let's say I'm sitting in this room and you drop a boulder in here, right? And it's one great big boulder, but you're still going to have the corners of the room, you know, that are still going to get the light up there. So how do you make this whole floor impermeable to light?
Sand, smaller.
Boulders, rock, yeah. So you fill it out. So using multiple particle sizes helps, and using small particle sizes, because there's a law of physics, and I'm sorry to get, you know, into physics there, but it's Beer's law of physics, if that helps.
It doesn't, but go on.
Which is similar to the smaller the particle, the more the relative surface area. So if you take a 2-pound basketball and you take, and I don't know how, I mean, maybe it's 3 pounds, and you take a similar amount of ping pong balls that are 2 pounds and 2 pounds, right? The ping pong balls have smaller particle sizes, a lot more surface area. You cover the nooks and crannies of the skin really great, and you're reflecting your light. And that's exactly what's happening. You're putting mirrors on your skin. When you get to the chemical part, it's crazy, but you absorb it into your skin. Somewhere there, as the light hits your skin, all of this is kind of coming in, and you're converting ultraviolet light into heat. That's the way a chemical sunscreen works. Where it happens, we don't know for sure, but certainly you're doing an energy reaction. You're taking light in one source.
But this is not TIZO you're talking
This is
about.
not TIZO.
Right. So let's not
TIZO reflects
people.
off of you.
Right. Let's just say TIZO reflects. Okay. That's better. We don't want to confuse people.
Right.
All we want to say is that we don't really care for the chemical ones. And so that's not what TIZO does. And I want to just tell people, you were a plastic surgeon for decades. And so I want to just ask you, go back a little, how did you make your, transition from doing plastic surgery to this? And why did you feel like there was such a need in the market for something on this kind of sunscreen?
Well, 30 years is a long time. So I started the business, as I said, in '89. I practiced for 11 or 12 years simultaneously. Early in my career, I had done some really dramatic, crazy facial reconstructions of taking people's noses off and all of this. And it was always in my head that I couldn't understand, what was going on with all the skin cancers and everything, and all the issues of reconstruction. And because you do something called, well, we don't do it, but derms do Mohs, and they continue to make some aggressive stand against the cancer. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it seemed to me kind of confusing. I mean, all I did was I picked up a bottle, gave it to my kids when we went to the beach, right? I met a gentleman who was a chemist in the dermatology industry. We formed the business, and it was under his knowledge that I came to understand this is a molecule, this is a cell, and this is invisible light. How are these three interacting? So it was really that evolution that once I saw what was going on, it's like, I can't keep on doing what I'm doing. I have to go do this. I don't see any other way for me to believe in myself if I didn't try to at least address what to me was the most damaging thing, which was the sun. And well, also the best thing. So I don't want to.
Sounds like you are a man of integrity and experience. You saw the results of people who really, with really extreme sun damage, what can happen if you were operating on that.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Eric, but I remember specifically, I was in LA at a plastic surgery convention, you know, on this side of the booth, and there were doctors walking by, and somebody came over to me and started telling me about our product. And it wasn't until I started hearing what people like yourself say or other people, and I'm like, wow, this is so different than what it should be. You know, everybody sees sunscreen as a commodity, and they don't realize what's going on in terms of your skin and the light and all those things. So it was sort of like it didn't happen fast. It happened very, very slowly. But once I started seeing, it was like, I think this is a really important thing to do in life. So,
and at the time, did you feel like there was a hole in the market?
Oh,
you know,
absolutely, an incredible hole, which has closed a lot. But I think if you really understand this part, the inactive ingredients, that's where you really start to make a difference. That's the next evolution of things.
Well, I'll tell you that, you know, people, I think, respond to things by when they see results and how they feel. So I'm just going to tell you my personal relationship with sunscreen and my experience with TIZO is that I wouldn't say I don't have sensitive skin, but as I got older, I started getting sensitive eyes, meaning that when I put anything too close to it, whether it was any kind of, you know, a sunscreen or a moisturizer or a serum, they would hurt, they would burn. So that was a good test right there. That I'm using probably not technical terms, but the slippage factor when you're out in the sun, there wasn't that like slippage factor, just so everyone knows. Like, I don't like that feeling when you're using a sunscreen. You feel like coming off of you, going into your eyes, things like that. That's important, you know. You're getting hot. A lot of people use sunscreen. We'll talk about not just using it by the pool, but they use it by the pool and on vacation, which is very important. But you don't want it to be uncomfortable. Are all of your sunscreen waterproof?
Well, I think let me just distinguish something for you. Because we are an OTC FDA regulated product, the FDA at some point said rubber boots are waterproof. Topical products are water resistant. And no, all of our products are not, because we know sometimes people are not taking them to the beach. But the ones that are significant.
What's the word? What is the wording?
Water resistant?
Water resistant then. Okay, so it's, yes, here it is on the box, water resistant. So we'll go with that. I totally get that. And that means 80,
and that can be divided into water resistance for 40 minutes, water resistance for 80 minutes. And what does that really say to the consumer? Hopefully it says reapply your sunscreen, because that's the important part too. You know, what happens here, SPF is a function of time. So it's an SPF 30. That means you get 300 minutes in the sun, theoretically, you know, as a comparison when they do the testing. But an SPF 30 telling you 300 minutes kind of contradicts the back of the box where it says reapply every 120 minutes.
Yeah, it does. So what do we do with that information, Harry?
So we realize that SPF is a really poor way to rate something. Mm-hmm. Again, SPF is just rating one wavelength, the UVB, the one that makes you red, the one that should tell you to get out. Broad spectrum, which is the other term that is relatively new under it. Broad spectrum says that it's covering you into UVA. There are international standards that are maybe a little more descriptive than that, but we don't get those in the US, like PA+++ or things like that.
I've seen that.
But it's funny to think about something, you know, what does an SPF 100 mean? It means that you can stay in the sun for 1,000 minutes, but yet you have to reapply every 120. So that's the problem here, is that we're sort of giving this message with a SPF number that you're so protected, and really your skin is constantly kind of exfoliating, whether it's through, you know, being touched by moisture, by rubbing, or just the general. So the sunscreen's always sort of coming off you, you know,
So let
especially
me
if you're in
ask
the
you,
water.
true or false? I've heard this before.
Both.
That thank you. Wait, so the SPF, I heard when you get to a certain number, like let's say, I forget what it was, like 40 or 60, that when you see things like 60 and 75, that it doesn't make a difference. True or false?
It doesn't make a difference. It only makes a difference in the perception that the person is buying it in. And their belief is they're going to get more protection. But
well, that's bad then, isn't it? Isn't that bad as a perception?
Well,
if they're like, if I say, Harry, I'm going to the beach, I have an SPF 75, so I'm going to put it on, I'm going to be good for 7 hours in the sun.
Well, so here's the things, you know, here are the things that I think are important. Ingredients, usability, and knowledge to reapply. I think even if you use a low SPF product, if you're reapplying and you're cognizant of it, it's a lot better than using a high product. And in particular, because you really can't get a physical product too high. You certainly would have a hard time getting it to 100. You might, but now you're wearing your toothpaste. You know, you don't have an elegant product. So you have to do something that's going to be elegant, is going to give you, you know, a 30, a 40, something like that to give you enough time to be outside. Hopefully something that if you're going to go in the water, it's water resistant to 40 minutes, 80 minutes. But most importantly, I think where we all fail is we don't use it and we don't reapply it. So if you can, you know, get to that, if you find a product you like and you can get to that.
I'm a big reapplier. Harry, when I come out of the water, I reapply.
You, Eric. You know, I have to just show you something because a lot of people, especially at the beach, will use a spray. And you see them, and you see the spray going off into the sun.
Right.
Some really bad things are happening. The worst
Sounds like you're not a big fan of a spray, Harry. Okay.
No, because you're probably inhaling it.
Yeah.
They're basically chemical, and if they're physical, if they're titanium or zinc, now you're putting particles across a space that you could still inhale. We have 7 patents on titanium and zinc foam. And the foam has a great non-CO2 depleting propellant called Honeywell Solstice. But the nice thing is with a foam, and I don't know if you can see this, comes out and easy to spread. So
that's why you have a bald head, just so you can do these demonstrations.
So I can reflect light.
I love, you know, I haven't tried the foam yet.
In 1970, my hair was like down to here.
Oh, I'd like to see that picture. I really do. No, I haven't seen a foam sunscreen before. That's pretty
I carry it
remarkable.
around with me. I'm always looking at it. No, but spraying is probably, you know, there's a couple of things we believe in. Don't use chemical sunscreens. Don't spray your sunscreen and reapply. And that's why we did the foam, because I'm
gonna start educating people and say, ma'am, sir, do not spray that sunscreen around me, please. So Karen has a question. I didn't want to forget. She said, and you've probably heard this before, she said, I heard that the right amount to use of sunscreen is a shot glass. Have you heard that before?
Yes, and we're talking about the whole body.
We're talking about the whole body. Is
Right,
is that something that sounds like a good amount? Or would you not use that kind of measurement? Is that silly?
I mean, I think it works. I think the big thing is apply, whether it's, you know, if you're 7 feet tall and
I agree.
Pounds,
I agree. It sounds silly. Like I want to cover everything, and I always make sure I get the crevices behind that I can't see, because you know you come home later or whatever again from the beach, and you see those like red burn marks in those weird places because you missed something. You just want to. The idea is to get everywhere, right? Get a friend, help you.
Let me say this, and this is a hard thing to say, but avoidance is a good idea. And by that, I mean, have shade at the beach. Wear some clothes that are helping you reduce the amount of chemicals, not only that you're putting on you, but that are going to come off in the ocean. I mean, all of these things kind of work into each other. Yes, we have to protect ourselves. I mean, you know, maybe some of it is that if you're going to go run, you run before 9 a.m. or you run after. You know, so you kind of not just think you're getting protected by a product, but you're also using, you know, your own intuition as to how much time should I spend in the sun. Yes, definitely vitamin D is important. You want to be in the sun, but you also want to limit your exposure.
Harry, we have another question because I don't want to forget it. From Melissa. She said, foam versus lotion, does that impact the sun protection, the SPF delivery?
This is a lotion in here. It's 94% lotion.
And it comes out as a foam.
Comes out as a foam for easier, but it is a lotion because that's the only way that you're going to get this.
I'm excited. I want to try this foam. I'm excited about the foam. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Someday we'll be able to do that.
I know. You were just talking, and I just have a lot of questions. So
go ahead. I'll shut up.
No, your answers are great. But I mean, there's a lot to say about sunscreen and sun. Yeah, where do I start? Okay, so let's start with, you said, okay, let's start with this, the time and the sun. I want to talk about the sun. It's the UV rays that we are concerned with, correct?
Well,
is that what damage?
Yes,
UV rays?
Is definitely step one. The foundation of all skincare rests on sunscreen. And the foundation of all sunscreen is ultraviolet. Now, ultraviolet, we've continued to expand our understanding over the 30 years that I've been doing this. I mean, it's amazing how much more we understand about the positives and the negatives of solar radiation. But we're finding more about blue light, visible light, kind of a little bit unknown yet. We've done a lot of work in visible light. Actually, we took an orphan drug to FDA to get it approved as a prescription sunscreen. We got shot down because they didn't see the need for it, but we did, and that was in 2000, believe it or not.
That's interesting because I can see I think people will pop a pill pretty easily if you tell them it works.
And there are oral supplements that can help reduce your sensitivity to ultraviolet. I mean, they say they may have an SPF of 2 or 3, and you have to take them 4 times a day. There's an herb, a fern, polypodium. But I still think that you find something you like, you reapply it, and you temper your time if that is important to you. If you're trying, to avoid wrinkling and aging, reduce your direct exposure, with the exception of 15 minutes every 3 or 4 days for your vitamin D intake. So
I heard Australia now is having a lot more cases of skin cancer because is it where they're located? Australia? Did I make this up?
Australia has always been a very high incidence of ultraviolet damage.
I've heard it's gone up in the past 5-10 years.
Well, and I think the U.S. has too, as we look at it. Could it be a depletion of ozone in the atmosphere? Could it be some of the other products we're using? Could it just be more, there's so many things, but yes, we've all kind of noticed that. And that's the importance of talking about sunscreen, not just when you go to the beach, but on a daily basis. Australia, to me, is a little bit more complicated because it is the kind of country that has beaches all around. They're always outside. It would be like if the U.S. was just Florida, California, Texas, But I think we all wonder about that. I have my own philosophies, which, are kind of like not proven yet. So I don't like to throw that out there. But I do think that we have to be aware of our time we spend outside, application of product, reapplication, and avoidance.
Yeah, I agree to all that. And I try to practice all of that. So the ozone, is the ozone like a layer around the Earth? Or is it a layer and then in different places, it's like more protective than other places?
We're kind of together on that one. I don't exactly. I know what it is. I don't know if I can speak. I can speak intelligently about a few subjects. I don't think the ozone's one of them.
Well, I just wonder why in different places the sun can be more intense and can hurt your skin more. For instance, when I go to Colorado, I feel like the sun is really intense.
Well, that's a higher altitude. So certainly on higher altitudes, yes. But the ozone issue appears to really be an Antarctic issue a lot. I know I've heard when that ozone hole would be over Chile, the number of skin cancers diagnosed would explode. So, you know, again, I'm sort of more of a terrestrial person with sunscreen. I know that there's issues out there about the ozone and about, but just in general, look at all the pollution we put on our things. Have to be changing when you have this much CO2 in it. You know, I mean, whether it's global warming, whether it's more it's undeniable that the Industrial Revolution has certainly shaped.
Yeah, it has shaped in so many different levels. Karen has another really good question, which I've wondered about before. Do we need sunscreen when we're on an airplane or inside?
Well, great question. I would like to say it depends where on the airplane you are. Do pilots and stewardesses? Yes. They're higher up in the ozone, like you're on the tippy top of a mountain, right? I've read that there is a higher incidence in pilots because they're so exposed to it, you know, as opposed to the windows that we're at. I think we have a bank here that has a chain of banks, and they're beautiful. They're all glass. And you walk into that building, and everybody that works there is like, they never thought about it. They didn't because the sun's coming in so harsh on the glass. You know, so UVA will go through glass. UVB will not.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep asking this. UVB are they both bad?
Well,
UVB, for your skin?
UVB is the wavelength that makes you red. It's kind of like your alarm clock. It's the same wavelength that SPF is addressing in terms of numbers.
And UVA?
UVA is the aging wavelength. UVB is the burning wavelength. UVA.
So you don't really want either of it too much.
You don't want either, but let me put it to you this way. UVB is most prominent between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't go through glass, and it changes during the winter. UVA, on the other hand, is once the sun comes up above the horizon until it goes down, it's the same. January, July, it's the same. You're getting consistent UVA throughout the day, from what I understand, and it goes through the glass. Hence, more skin cancers in the U.S. on the left side, more skin cancers in Britain on the right side, because we're getting so much.
Yeah.
You know, so that's sort of a pretty interesting
thing. This brings me to another question, because, you know, I go to the doctor and I live in California where it's pretty sunny pretty often. And they say I have a vitamin D deficiency. And I'm like, how can I have a vitamin D deficiency? I live in California. Like, I'm not like, it's like I wear sunscreen. I mean, I have to admit, I don't put it on every day. I need to do it more. But I mean, I get some vitamin D that way. How important is it to get it that way through the sun, not just through the things you eat or through supplements? And how much, if it is okay, is enough to get?
Well, that's sort of the conundrum that a lot of people in dermatology have, I think. We all want to protect the skin, but we want people to have good vitamin D. Sometimes supplementation is the answer, because it seems like in our population in America, we just don't seem to get enough. And that's pretty rampant. So you sort of ask yourself, well, do I risk skin cancer, aging, all those effects by being in the sun, or do I think about supplementation or what it really takes for me to get? Because truly, maybe you need to spend a half an hour with no sunscreen on, 2 times a week. I don't know what the real numbers are. I'd have to look.
Right.
But it's something like you need time exposure.
Consult your doctor, people. Don't sue us, just because Harry said that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it is a conundrum for sure. Yeah, it is for sure. So I guess my other question, okay, I know you have a line now. You have a whole line. There's a line of TIZO products. So do all of them have the tinting in them? No. The tinting is really something that we did just for acceptability. Almost all of them will go transparent because of the small particle size, but the tinting just kind of gets you there sooner. Where does it get us sooner? And
it just disappears sooner, so you don't see it.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yes, so it's really done for transparency.
Is it a pigment for the tinting?
Yes, it's iron oxide.
So my question is, because I got this question from a dark-skinned woman, and she wanted to know, is it only for certain shades, the tinting of skin, or you don't have to worry about matching it to your skin?
Well, I think you always have to worry about matching it to your skin in terms of your ability to want to wear it. You don't want to be someone with a Fitzpatrick 5 skin, which means, you know, you're African American or you're darker pigment, and now you're putting on a product that makes you look ashen or doesn't match your. So that's always our goal, and that's why we tinted it. And what we found is, believe it or not, we were able to match almost a Fitzpatrick 6, which is a fairly dark pigmented skin, with a mineral sunscreen, which is pretty incredible. We are coming out with 8 shades of tinted moisturizer soon so that we can get closer on that match. But that's always to try to make it a more acceptable product for greater use, really.
Yeah, because I will say when I use the tinted product, like if you see it, and I'm a guy, like it looks, you know, kind of rusty looking. That's the best way I can describe it, right? And I'm like, oh, is my skin gonna look that color? And no, it didn't actually. It didn't look that color.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. There certainly are, you know, we sell around the world, and certainly there are countries in Asia that do not want a tinted product. They're all about the whitest product that they can wear, and they want very white skin, very light skin. Our goal is for people like you. If you put a very white product on and you saw it, you may say, oh, I'm not sure. This, and that could be true with tinted, but it just helps it go transparent. That's all we're trying to do. It's just make it disappear.
So we talked a lot about, you know, going in the sun, going on a vacation, the pool, but let's talk about why it's important to use sunscreen on a much more regular basis. Talking about, you know, not just on vacation, you know, in the winter, why you should use it consistently. Why is that important?
Well, you have a great question.
People find it hard to believe. I think they equate, oh, it's sunny on my face, I need sunscreen, and then that's it.
You're right. And for anyone listening, we didn't set these up because it should be like your toothpaste. Your damage and your skin is cumulative, like the odometer in your car. When it breaks, it isn't because you were at mile, you know, 84,000. It's because you did 84,000 miles, and that's why something breaks. This damage is cumulative, and what you're trying to do is decrease your inflammation all the time and not get cumulative. So by wearing it daily, you're constantly being exposed. You know, I did something once where I said, okay, average is like 12,000 miles a year. Let's say 6,000 are at night, 6,000 are during the day, 6,000 miles a year at 50 miles an hour. That computed to so many hours, I couldn't believe it, that people will spend in their cars. So it's that cumulative time in your car, let's say, theoretically, it's coming through, and you're just adding it up. And if you're in your car, and I've been in those, are you in Southern California?
Yes.
I've been in those traffic jams. Oh, man, you're there for a long time. You're doing it how many days, how many weeks, how many months, how many years? You add all that up, then that's when you break, you know? It's funny because I have a sister who's a physician also. She actually stopped practicing like 6 months before I did. She went off and got a PhD in Eastern theology. She avoids the sun like nobody you've ever met. But she had a melanoma this year. And it was like, you haven't been in the sun for 70 years. You know, how did you get a melanoma? Well, some of it's genetic. So you need to keep monitoring your skin. But also, you know, you have to avoid, you have to wear sunscreen. You have to recognize somebody's dying, I think, what is it, every 56 minutes from melanoma? 17,000 people die a year from melanoma.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So when you say cumulative, it's cumulative. Like you can't get that back.
Right.
It's cumulative. So yeah, it's really important. And for people who haven't, you know, worn sunscreen on a regular basis, I would say start today. Start today. When you not say that?
It's so amazing when you look at people that have compared to people that haven't. And the best way, honestly, are the twins. There's a place called Twinsburg, Ohio, where every year all these twins descend. I don't know if they did this year. And right there, you see the people. This twin smoked and drank and stayed in the sun. This one didn't. How come they look 20 years different? And it's true. I mean, it's amazing what a difference just the sun makes in hyperpigmentation and aging and all those other things. So,
okay, so gosh, we've already been talking for 45 minutes. I have some questions for you, and I want to make sure I get them in. Oh, this is a really good one. How should somebody, this is very simple, how should somebody apply sunscreen? Especially on their face. Don't forget about the body. Let's talk about the face. How would you say it's important to apply sunscreen on the face?
You know, that's an interesting question because it's just something that I've been doing for so many years. I don't really even.
Well, let me tell you a couple things I do.
I make sure I get close to the eyes, but go ahead.
I do that. I put it on my neck, make sure I don't miss my neck. I get my ears. And
yes,
obviously,
the ears definitely.
For you, isn't very important. You're bald. You're getting, but for somebody, I know. I just told you that, but it's not a bad word.
It's incredible how much damage you get on your head.
But you know what's interesting is like you're aware of it. Your head, that you have no hair. I don't know if you shave part of it, but the guys that like are losing some of their hair, it's really important that if there's skin exposed, they need to put sunscreen there, and the back of your neck. The back of your neck.
You know,
basically cover everything.
Yes. I actually had a actinic keratoses right here. I thought, oh, this is going to be bad. I'm the guy that makes sunscreen. I'm going to get skin cancer. Fortunately, I didn't. But, you know, it is all that cumulative damage. And you do want to go and get things looked at and get them biopsied.
Yeah, that is a good point for sure. It says, yes, does TIZO work for all skin tones? It does work for all skin. Doesn't really matter about that. I like this one. Should I avoid tanning in the sun? I gave that up years ago. I don't do that. And I have friends that bake in the sun still. And it scares me.
Well, let's not live in fear, but let's realize that we love being outside and there are great products out there and you have to intelligently choose the right one. Interestingly enough, I was just reading that Virginia is now the 23rd state to outlaw minor tanning in tanning salons, sun lamps. So,
oh gosh, I didn't even know. I mean, tanning. I don't know people that go to tanning. Maybe a couple people go to tanning salons. But that means that
27 states still allow minors to go to tanning booths. I mean,
yeah, I never even thought about that. I mean, I did it once when I was in school, and thank God I had an allergic reaction to it. And I'm like, I'm getting, I obviously my vanity is being punished for my vanity. So I didn't go back after that. I had a horrible, allergic scratching reaction. What sunscreen should be applied before or after moisturizer or your things?
Well, depending upon what product. So we have our Taizo Ultra Zinc, which is a very moisturizing sort of light product that I use as my body product, and the foam. Our Taizo 3 is like a primer. So you want to use that maybe first and then makeup, but I think you always want to seal in your moisture, so you put it on top of your moisturizer.
Okay. So, I have a few of my own little words and things that I'm curious about. TIZO 3. What's the 3 for?
Titanium, iron, zinc. 3 particles.
Titanium, iron,
zinc. Iron oxide for the tint, and that's how it started.
So when you see the 3, it means it's tinted.
Right. On TIZO 3.
And iron oxide is the tint.
Whereas TIZO 2 is just 2 particles, titanium and zinc.
So that's if you want a tint versus not a tint. Is that correct?
Right.
And the tint is really just to give you a little bit of a glow?
Well, it's also to help make sure that you don't see the sunscreen. Okay. So if you're a Fitzpatrick 5, which, means that, 1 being, say, Irish or whatever, 5 being, or 6 being a more pigmented person, we make a product called TIZO Ultra Zinc. Here it was just 1. There's no number because it's just 1 particle. It's 20% zinc, but we do it tinted. And that one, for some reason, works on every darker toned skin. Mm-hmm. So it's tinted, but it just goes transparent. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to make believe this doesn't exist on you. We're not really trying to give you tint. We will do that in our next group of pigments that are the tinted moisturizers. But here our goal was just to make it acceptable to men, to women, to children, to anyone, so that they would feel comfortable.
And I want to just point out to everybody, if anybody's really sensitive like I am to smells and fragrance, Taizo doesn't have it. So I'm very sensitive to that. I don't want my products to have
Yes.
perfume
Yes.
smell, things like that. So I'm sensitive to my eyes, the smells, all that. Taizo's excellent for that. Okay, Reef Friendly. What does that mean? I found that on your website.
Well, you know, that's a really important thing. We're reef friendly. The chemical sunscreens have been demonstrated to be deleterious to the reefs. How friendly can you get to a reef, though, really? You know, I mean, how much should human interaction be on the reefs? So, yes, there are people that are doing it. They should wear sunscreen. We believe that this is an acceptable product. At the same time, we're concerned ecologically about the reefs. And, I mean, we're not trying to say that we think you should go to the reefs, but if you are going there, this is a better choice.
So you're talking about the
reefs.
planet.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
talking about, okay.
We're talking about motorboats going to reefs and everybody, you know, and I've done it myself. And after a point, you think, wow, this is, you know, this isn't the greatest thing here. But if you're there, this is better than going without sunscreen.
Okay, so silicone, it doesn't have silicone in it. But
No, it does have silicone.
It does have silicone
Yes.
in it.
And remember, silicone is sand.
Oh,
silicone,
I didn't know that. I was going to ask you because
silicone
I don't really
sand.
know what it is. So when people say, I think people throw that around a lot in kind of natural beauty and stuff like that. So silicone is, what's it important for? You just said sand, and why is it okay? Or why did you feel it was okay?
Right. I mean, I don't want to say that these are natural things because they're way processed and everything. Our goal was to create a film on your skin that stays on your skin and make something that feels beautiful but adheres to your skin and doesn't leave.
That's the silicone.
And silicone is great for that. I mean, we put a film on you that you need a great cleanser to take off.
That is true.
We want it to stay on you.
I actually love that. And that's actually to people's benefits. But if it stays on, and like Mary said, the running part doesn't do that. You don't want sunscreen running in your eyes, running in your mouth. You don't want to be eating your sunscreen. Photo protection. There's a lot of photo words I noticed on your sunscreen. Photosensitive, photo protection. What's photo protection?
So all of this is just another way of saying sun.
Mm-hmm.
Photo meaning light. Light protection.
Light. Okay.
Light.
Got it.
So, you know, it's a fancy way to say damage, photo damage, light damage, photosensitive, light sensitive. Sort of a lot of our undertone is because we started by going and selling products or recommending products with a dermatologist. So we were kind of speaking their language because it was something that seemed like they would understand and realize that we're talking not about beach. We're talking about the lupus patient, the organ transplant patient. We want to protect everyone, and we want to give them as little foreign chemical in their bloodstream as possible. So it's kind of that, you know, you have someone that's maybe had an organ transplant. They're already taking a lot of immune suppressive drugs. How do you minimize the amount of burden on their body? You keep that product outside of them. You put it on their skin like a film, like a second skin. And then that was always the goal. And as years and years went by, we started seeing that people want this as a primer. What's a primer? We didn't even know what primers were when people came to us and said, oh, I love it as a primer. We're like, what's that? But
so tell people that so some of your products, I know this one is the facial primer.
Yes.
So some of them are primers, correct?
Yes. Some of them are primers. We have an eye product that is just for that. I hate doing this kind of stuff. I mean, we kind of kept going as what was next. And that's where the foam was like, it was very exciting. And we got all those patents on it because it was avoiding the spray. So whether it's the eye, you know, the face, the body with the Ultra, the Zinc based product, or the foam, we're trying to sort of like say, these are the areas that, you know, because most skin cancer is on the face. It's either the lip, the ears, or the nose. You know, it's kind of like this. So that's
Sherry
what,
wants to know, Sherry's in Canada. She wants to know, do you sell it in Canada,
yes,
Taizo?
we do.
And is it just through a dermatologist or
Um,
is that
in
where they
Canada,
typically, yeah.
I think it's dermatologist, licensed professional, esthetician.
Sherry, listen, it's not at your Shoppers Drug Mart.
No.
I'm from Canada, that's why I know that. So it's, yeah, go to a licensed professional or dermatologist, Sherry. It's great. So it's good for I'm just going to sum it up. Taizo is
We'll bring
good for
some
the
up to
earth.
you, Sherry.
Yeah, right. It's good for the earth and it's good for you. Like, I mean, really, I'm persnickety, Harry. I am really about this. And I've tried a lot of sunscreens and none of them, pardon the pun, none of them stuck. You know, they didn't. I mean, they didn't stick literally or figuratively. I was just kind of like, and then I was really the person going back to the, I don't know, that copper tone, whatever their top of the line is, because I didn't find one. And then when I was introduced to it, I love it. I love the product. But I also want to tell people that, I just want to end with this too, that you are part of Dr. Ava's The Box, for her first box, which is, I want to show people again who are just
Beautiful.
tuning in, The Box, curated by Dr. Ava, and it's at The Box by Dr. Ava on Instagram. And you can find out there if you want to find out more about TIZO at TIZO Sunscreen. Is that correct? At TIZO Sun. I know. I should know. You should know that, Harry.
I should know that too.
You
I
should
think
know
we're
that.
Taizo Skin.
Skin, that's it, right. At Taizo Skin, check it out. This is what the inside the box looks like. And I just will say for people who are interested in all this, you're getting such a good deal.
It's a
It's
great deal.
$250 for the box, but
Yeah.
the value of this, the 3 items in here, are close to $1,000. So you check that out. We are hitting on an hour. I mean, I'm one of these nerds, Harry, that can talk about this. I love the technical part. I love the chemistry. I love the beauty part. I am vain enough that I want to protect my skin, Harry. I do. I want to look good for as long as I can, and I want to take care of myself, and I don't want to go through getting having cancer scares, getting cancer removed or anything that bad, because that is the serious part of it. So this isn't just a aesthetic thing. This is something that you are protecting your body and for your health. And I want people to realize that. So
And it feels great too. That's the interesting part, isn't it?
It is. It
That's the
feels
weird
silky.
part that I found myself in. It's like, how did I end up doing this? You know, I mean, I was doing something so different, and then this came into my life. It's like,
yes, I think, you know what, you followed your instincts, and I love your story, how you got there, and that you were, like I said, you had integrity about, you know, seeing how it could ravish people's lives and bodies.
you know, let me just say something to that. It was the integrity of everybody around me more than me, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a doctor, right? You know, doctors.
I'm sure doctors, some have integrity, Harry.
Well, I think a lot of them do, but it's not about integrity. It's about, you kind of follow a path that you get on, and unfortunately, sometimes it's the wrong path. For me, it was the right path, you know. But it was really more about the people around me than. So I don't like to say that because.
Well, let me say it then. You don't say it. You just smile and say thank you.
Well, no, I like to say it. I've been surrounded by a lot of really great people that taught me. I didn't know anything about this stuff.
Well, thank you for being the conduit, for bringing TIZO to the world, for letting me experience it,
and thank you for bringing it to people.
Yeah, and for letting me share it with my followers, my friends, my clients, and everybody. I do tell everybody about it. So,
well, thank you. We appreciate it. You know, as a little business, that's our goal, is to like stay in business and do this and do right things. And it's like, how do you go up against these giants that it's like
hard. You keep having that integrity and doing your thing, and don't cut corners.
Like, don't you guys realize what those chemicals are? It's like, and doesn't it matter?
No, not to some people, Harry. Unfortunately, we're the good ones. We're the good guys. You're the good guy.
You know, let me tell you, when you talk to the people individual, they want it. But when it comes to the big machine that has to keep being fed, it's like, it's hard to stop. So you got to get to people to understand. Yes, they do need sunscreen. Yes, they need the right ingredients. And yes, they need to reapply.
Yes, do not cut corners. Try TIZO. Okay, well, thank you, Harry.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Be safe, and I can't
Sorry
wait
about
to
the
meet
6
you.
minutes.
No worries.
You're saying, where are they? Where are they? And I'm over here typing. I'm right here. I'm right here.
I can't wait to meet you in person. We can apply TIZO together.
Well, thank you, Eric.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye, folks.